Thank you for joining me again today. We're starting our Digital 2.0 interview series again. And today I've got Sameera Rao from Greenlight Financial Technology. Thank you for joining me today. Sameera, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jeremy. Awesome to be here. This is Jeremy Sameera, Chief Technology Officer here at Greenlight, looking at all things engineering, data, infrastructure, security, ops, all that good stuff. Greenlight, the mission is how do we empower parents to raise financially smart kids and to have families navigate lives together. That is what makes us come in every day, go after this, because it is a compelling mission that we need more of in the world. And every day we strive towards how do we make sure that every child grows up to be successful both in money and in life. And that's again what we are going after here every day. And this is something that is very relatable to all of us. I have two kids, preteen and an 8-year-old. And even growing up, I grew up in a middle-class family in India. And finance was not something we talked about day to day or month over month because, we were just so heads down. My dad was so heads down and figuring it all out in terms of the whole monthly budget for the family and the whole 9 yards. It was never a conversation of, how do we think about investing? How do we think about something else, right? Because it was all about, okay, let's make sure that the engine keeps going. Even getting into college and even getting out of college, I wished I knew a lot more than I did before so that I would have made the right choices, even going through college and right after college as well, right? Like, should I have started my 401k earlier? Absolutely. And did I do that? No, because it was just that I just didn't know.
Well, the education of managing your personal finances and planning for the future, a lot of us don't think about it until we're well into our 30s or 40s. Instilling some of those really the guardrails and understanding of how economics works even isn't something you even learn in school really in detail until you're in college. So that's awesome.
And here's the big thing about this. The start in any of this does not mean that you need to have a stash of money for you to do this. Now, that's the most fundamental thing, right? Anybody can do this. And it is not only for the rich and the few to be able to do this. And that was the biggest learning for me, right? Like as I got out of college and started working, I was like, you know what? It takes just that education of, okay, sure, I'm earning X. Let's put a fraction of that set to the side. And before you know it, oh my God, yeah, that's a good chunk of money out there that I didn't know I could accumulate. That is what we are after here. That is the whole financial literacy and education where number one, the whole aspect of investing and saving for the future, number one, should not be limited to top 1% in the world. And number two, most importantly, anybody can do this. And the right education is very critical towards that. And starting as early as possible in life in knowing these things.
You're hitting some tones I love. And it's not about big changes. It's making those small little pieces, right? The fractions that you can pull out. And as long as you've got the education and the background and some guidance on some best practices around how to manage the finances, it sounds like the primary goal that you at Greenlight are going for.
Absolutely. And everything that we do and all the products we roll out revolve around this. For example, we have already announced and very shortly here we are already ramping, by the way, on this in all customers getting it. For example, parents having access to this, what we call Greenlight Family Cash Card. This is the credit card that anyway, day to day that the parents use today, the cash back from that, it's a 3% cash back credit card and it's unlimited. You use it, you get the 3%. Just invest that 3% cash back that you get into the future for the family. Again, it is money that is just coming off of what you're already spending. And we already have all the vehicles for that to be invested. So that month over month, even without you knowing it, you're accumulating money for the future, for college education, whatever it is, right? Those are the things where we want to make it automated so that you don't even have to think about this. It just happens.
That is awesome. And it's just encouraging the same behaviors, but doing it in something that comes naturally already, right? I mean, you're getting cash back on your credit card already. Instead of using that to go fund a holiday or what have you, let's make sure that you've got the knowledge and the way and the tools to make sure that you're investing in your future, not just in what we all love, instant gratification, right?
I think that's why I am here. That's why we are all here at Greenlight to do this. And just as by the way of introduction, I spent a decade at PayPal, both the merchant and consumer side of things. That's what I really appreciated, because PayPal's vision had always been about how do we democratize financial services for the world, and how do we make it a level playing field. And Greenlight kind of takes that to the next kind of step in that journey, if you will, because it makes sure that families start very early on this journey. And the entire family, like my 8-year-old, for example, is so much more educated about finance that I didn't even know anything at 8. And as a result of Greenlight, and the fact that the kids and teens now are so much more exposed to the devices and tech overall, it's so easy for them to grasp these things, because I mean, again, we make it super easy and educational and fun for kids and teens to kind of play with the app. And a lot of these things where you kind of gamify it enough that they are kind of inquisitive about it and get into it. Again, that background and that introduction for me into fintech absolutely helped in framing my own mindset and what this needs to be. I'm really looking forward to this journey.
You've got a background in fintech and helping people make use of technology in their financial futures. And whether it's from PayPal in your background or Greenlight today on helping educate, you've been doing this for a while. I'm not going to hit years out there. I don't want to age either of us here, but that's a huge journey, right? And a lot of education you've picked up over the years here. What's changed for you since the start? Some of the biggest changes, we're talking digital transformation and that type of thing. What are the kind of some of the bigger pivot points that have really changed the direction for you as you've moved into Greenlight recently?
Yeah, I think and the journey starts, to your earlier point, way before PayPal, spending 2 decades in this industry. And my first real experience with scale and, oh my God, this is a whole different ball game here, and kind of in terms of the impact for the world, was at Yahoo back in mid-2000s when I joined Yahoo. And Yahoo back then was the company, and it already had 500 million consumers using Yahoo properties back then. And I was like, oh my God, the impact that what I do has on the world. In that small way, the impact I can have towards what this can be for the world was my first experience with, oh my God, this is transformational tech and what tech can disrupt in different industries. That's where I was like, oh, okay, right now, this is what I want to do, right? Like, I mean, I was a couple of years out of college and all that, and I was so drawn into that aspect of it's such a long convexity in terms of the impact that tech has. And then I did a startup for 6 years, and I joke that I did 4 startups in the 6 years that I was there, because we ended up pivoting every couple of years to figure out the product market fit. And that again made me learn so much about early stage startups and what that means to navigate the ups and downs of typical early stage startup. I mean, though going through that was painful at times, when I look back, it's probably the best learning I've had. Like anything in my life, right? Like you go through moments and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to navigate this. And then you look back and say, I learned so much. I'm a better person as a result.
And it's not necessarily the successes that we learn from. A lot of times it's the stumbling blocks or the places where it doesn't quite work out the way we expected it that we learn and we find a better path forward.
Absolutely. Then PayPal was interesting because in the early 2010s, PayPal was going through this huge transformation journey because, I mean, it was founded by Elon Musk and, the PayPal Mafia 1.0, if you will. And then PayPal had not innovated as much over that decade. And there was a little bit of that aspect of, okay, it's going along and let's not change things too much. As the saying goes, let's not fix what's not broken. And then in early 2010s was when the senior leadership at PayPal said, oh, you know what, we got to transform this and transform tech and the whole company and the culture, the mindset to set ourselves up for the decades to come. And that was when I joined to bring that startup DNA, if you will, into PayPal and drive that transformation in whatever I was looking at. And, it's such a phenomenal thing to go through that journey, because transformation in any company for that matter, and any industry, it all comes down to the same set of things and same set of principles, right? It's about the people. It's about how you listen and handhold people on this journey. And most importantly, give the context for why we are doing this, what this means to do that. And as the saying goes, in a lot of these cases, you need to take people slowly towards what they already know is the truth. I've really started to believe in that, because you cannot brute force transformation. It is about having that compassion, having that aspect of, okay, let's listen and make sure to understand where everyone is coming from and lead them towards where this needs to be.
I love that, because it's all about the people. Transformation, we as technologists, we love technology, don't get me wrong, but leading them to that truth that they already know is there, with empathy, compassion, and, as you say, walking alongside them, so that it's not just, go do this, we're going to change the world, but helping just guide them to it is, I think, the biggest part of transformation, innovation, and however we want to talk about that. But I love your approach there, because it truly is helping people find their own path forward, and then as a group getting to our end goal.
Absolutely. That's been the biggest learning for me over that decade at PayPal, because, tech is awesome, innovation is really great, but having the empathy and compassion, and most importantly, customers, keeping customers at the square and center of everything we do, that's the most important thing.
We hear it from just about every organization too right now, customer centricity or the customer point of view. And really all we're saying is, look, we're customers of those products and these services as well. So let's keep that in mind, not just as the builder of the future. Take that customer-centric view and make sure that we're still there. As you kind of see where we're going and how the world's changing, especially with everything that's happened through the 2020 and 2021 with COVID, remote work, et cetera, what's going to have the biggest impact for you over the next, let's call it 5 to 10 years, to keep on innovating in this space, transforming organizations and changing the world, even if it's just helping children and families with better education and finance? But what's going to be some of the biggest things you think that are going to affect that transformation or that journey for you?
I think about this all the time. I'm sure other executives and all the companies think about this all the time. And one of the biggest things that we have seen over the last, let's call it decade, 2 decades, is companies who can adapt quickly to what is going on around them. And most importantly, listening to the customers and where the customers are going and how the customers are thinking about it is the key for success. That has only been accelerated by COVID and what happened through the pandemic, because it necessitated a lot of people who were kind of holding off on jumping into all things digital to do it, because it just forced people to do so. I mean, we saw that at PayPal when I was there. I'm seeing that at Greenlight through what has happened at Greenlight through the pandemic. And all that to say, how can companies be nimble? How can Greenlight be nimble and listen to the customers? Really keep an eye out for what is going on around us in terms of tech, in terms of the cultural changes, the whole 9 yards is the biggest one for success, in my view, over the next 5 to 10 years. Sure, tech and being on top of it and being at the bleeding edge of all things tech, to be able to leverage the latest and greatest to be able to serve our customers. Absolutely, it's table stakes. I think more importantly, it'll come down to, again, people and being nimble, being able to adapt to change quickly. And most importantly, as executives and as the C team members in any company, how do we, again, handhold people with empathy and compassion to lead them towards what it needs to be able to be successful is going to be the key. Because we've seen so many companies around us where, as the saying goes, we did everything right, but somehow we still failed. The only reason those play out is when the companies are not 2 steps ahead of where things are. Again, that starts with listening to the customers, listening to what's going on around us, and going after it.
Having that agile mindset and then being open to feedback. And that kind of goes along with your empathy and compassion statement, right? Is let's make sure we're listening, not just talking, and make sure that we're taking that and feeding it back into the process. One of the most challenging things you can ever do as a leader of an organization, though, is make sure that you're hearing that and not putting your own twist on it.
Part there is, it's not like, okay, you did it once and as a result, you'll do it forever. Because every day I come in and I'm like, oh my God, I missed that in the last, I don't know, pick whatever time frame. Oh, I should have over-indexed more on this. And for me, it always starts with our own personal journey, right? Our own demons we fight, if you will, as individuals. Because some of these things, it's not like riding a bicycle where you did it once and as a result, you won't forget. Because a million things are going on a day-to-day basis. And you end up over-indexing and just get blindsided by, oh my God, I just totally did not listen there. That's the biggest fallacy I've realized for myself, where it's not like learning how to ride a bicycle. It's about going there every day and keeping that the square instead of what you do and saying, okay, let me not lose that.
I used to talk about this with a couple of my guys, and we have to treat every day like day one. Like, you can't forget yesterday, but today's still day one.
So true, so true. And the Amazon mantra of day one is so applicable to everyone, right? I mean, that is what it all comes down to.
Yeah, that is one of their favorites, right? Treat everything like day one. Occasionally there's the day two, but focus on it, though. As a quick one that I love asking this question of my interviewees too, just because it's interesting to get some insights in this, is to look out in the marketplace today, and there's a lot of organizations that have gone through some massive changes. Who are some of the ones that have surprised you the most with their digital innovation journey or transformation journey over the years?
Sure. For me, the biggest one in a positive way has been Microsoft. From a company which has already been such a behemoth, if you will, and how the culture was before Satya Nadella took it on versus where it is today, it has come such a long way. And especially if you think about Microsoft and the journey from like the 80s to where it is today, and around 4 decades of journey, and to transform a company of that size in, let's call it, less than 10 years, give or take, is such a monumental effort. And changing the culture from within, bringing that empathy and compassion to everybody from a customer perspective, listening and transforming the business as well. That's been phenomenal to watch.
And it's been multiple times. I think that was one of the best learnings for me, at least, was with like Microsoft's story. And you can look at Apple and any of the bigger tech firms that have done this. They didn't transform and stop. It's been an ongoing process for them. Every year, there's something that they're trying to change and try something new.
Absolutely. I think that's so true. And the other company that surprises me in that sense is Tesla. Tesla is an interesting journey because, I mean, you read up on news every other day and you're like, oh my God, this company is at the brink. It's kind of playing with fire here. And then you see that, oh my God, they executed so phenomenally well. And now, if you think about the way they have transformed the whole EV industry as a result, it's one of those things where you kind of know that has changed the game as a result. And that's been, I would say, surprising in the sense of obviously the positive impact it has had, and also how to the brink it comes every now and then, and how often it plays out that way. That's been very surprising.
It's one of the few organizations that at the level that they're playing, typically when you get to a certain revenue level in an organization, the stomach for risk is much lower. And this is one of the few organizations where they're playing at a pretty close, like knife's edge with their risk reward levels. They could be falling over one day, but they're going to be pushing that envelope almost every month, every quarter. And they've still adjusted and pivoted every time, right? They've had some stumbles.
It's been fascinating to watch.
Oh, yeah. I still kind of watch along. And Elon Musk, like him or hate him, there's a lot of divisiveness around everything that he does. He definitely is pushing the envelope with almost every organization he's running. And there's definitely a difference in the way that he's approaching disruption, because he's trying to find the best way to go forward, regardless of the risk that's associated to it. So it's interesting to watch. I got to agree with you on that one, 100%.
Yeah.
We play a little game. It's really just hyper real. I'm going to run through really quickly 4 or 5 different pieces here and just tell me your first thoughts. Is it real? Is it hype? Or you just go, what? What are you talking about here? And I love doing this just because cool feedback and some random stuff for you. Ready for it?
All right, let's do this.
All right. AI, artificial intelligence.
Real.
You're going all in. I love it. The metaverse.
Metaverse, I would say hype / what's going on is where I would put it. I might eat my words 3 years down the road, but where I see it right now, that's where probably I would classify it.
No, it makes sense. Hey, everyone got it on this one, right? And the next one that I ask you here usually ends up in the same area, crypto.
Crypto, I would say real. I would say, sure, there's a lot that needs to happen there, especially the last mile in how the dots get connected with banks and how it becomes more day to day. But the tech behind it, blockchain and everything there's something real there.
Loving it. All right, we already hit this one a little bit, but Elon Musk.
All said and done, I would put him in the real category. And sure, he always plays at that edge, but real.
He's got it going. Okay, the one that's been the fun one to hit, remote and hybrid work.
Real, very real too. I've seen this again in 2 companies now, PayPal and here at Greenlight. Sure, is it tough? Is it harder to bring the teams together, bring everyone together and establish that camaraderie, the teamwork, all that? Yes. But are there huge benefits for the employees and what companies can go after across so many dimensions? Absolutely real. And more companies need to adopt that and figure out how to do this well. Very real though.
I think this goes back to some of your original statements, though, right? As you're managing transformation, if we're doing it with empathy and compassion and we're connecting with the people that we're working with and for, finding the right fit becomes a natural progression. All right, Sameera, this has been awesome. I got to be honest, I love these kind of conversations. This is a great way to end up a week. It's been awesome talking with you today. Before we let everybody go, I'm going to give you a few minutes here. Tell us a little bit about what else is going on with you, how they can reach out and contact you if they'd like to, and anything else you'd like to share with the group here.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you so much, Jeremy and Brittany, for having me here. And it's been an absolute pleasure for me as well to do this and just share my thoughts and my 2 cents, if you will. I would like to wrap this up with, it's a very compelling mission we're on here. And, it's, again, very real in terms of where this is all going and moving it to the left. And it's absolutely the right thing to do for the world. And we need to do more of this in terms of educating families and giving them all the tools to navigate life together, and again making sure that it is not only for the top 1% of the world and who this will benefit, and that's the whole game here in terms of what we can do. And for me, again, leading with empathy and compassion for our customers, for employees, and being at the bleeding edge of tech to be able to keep innovating for the next 5-10 decades as we go forward, it all comes down to, and that's what makes me get out of bed and go after this every day.
That is awesome. I'll echo a little bit too. Greenlight is one of those organizations that I think is absolutely essential. The more we can educate our kids and our families on understanding at least the basics of economics and how to be financially smart about managing their own money, the earlier we do that, I think the more successful they'll be as they grow into young adults and adults.
See, the thing is, as in life, it is a cycle, right? Like it's young parents and then it's teens and then they become adults and then they have older parents. And, it's such a cycle that we want to do this really well for all these stages of life for everyone. And that's where it comes full circle. And that's when it has the impact that we are going after.
I love it. Okay, Sameera, again, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an awesome experience with you. I am hoping we get to talk again in a few months here and see where you're at, if anything's changed. Again, thank you everyone for joining us on our Digital 2.0 interview series. Sameera Rao joining us from Greenlight Financial Technologies. We'll make sure we have some extra contact information and everything else so you can reach out and get some more background on them as well in the notes here. But thank you again, Sameera. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And I'm available on Sameera on LinkedIn, Sameera G. Rao on Twitter, and of course, greenlight.com. And you can find me there as well. Thank you so much again for having me and have a great week.
You too.